Fish and chips, a meal once deemed so important to our British diet that in World War II it was one of the few foods that wasn't rationed. But 80 years later, price has killed popularity and a cost of living crisis that's killed not only many shops around the United Kingdom, but also the working class customer base that this food was meant for. I knew I had to go find the owners of these shops and hear the struggles firsthand, and take to the streets and ask the people, when were the last time you had fish and chips?
Have it 7 nights a week.
So I went on holiday at the weekend, not abroad, just a quick English getaway to the Lake District, to a popular tourist town. And when I was there, I walked past a fish and chip shop and I felt my pocket and I had a few quid in there, so I thought, you know what, I'm going to get some chips. I went in and I said, "Just get chips and curry sauce, please." And they spent a few minutes getting it ready, and then they went, "That'll be £6. And I went, £6? Oh, sorry, no, not fish and chips, just chips and curry sauce. And they went, "Yeah, no, that's £6 for that." So I said, "How much would it be for fish chips and curry sauce then?" And she went, £15. And I couldn't believe it. And at first I was like, God, that's so bad. I can't believe they're charging that. And then the more I thought about it, the more I did some research, I realised no fish and chip shop, I don't think anyway, is profiteering. They are just the result of a terrible cost of living crisis, horrific energy price rises. And I thought, I've got to go make a video about fish and chips, document it, and just do a bit of investigation. So that's what we're doing today.
So everything that we use, including packaging, it's doubled in price. Potatoes have doubled in price in the last 10 years. Oil has more than doubled. Energy prices have gone up. So it's a struggle for people who run Chippies.
You're still busy then here, yeah? Do you pay rates on this place as well?
Business pay rent on it.
Just oh, well, it's good to see you still busy and doing well.
Thank you very much.
Top man, what's your place called? I'll give you a shout out.
Tommyfield Chippy.
Tommyfield Chippy, give you a shout out. So just as I was doing my little introduction there, the fella in the little chippy there in the market calls me over, he says, "What you filming?" And I said, "I'm doing a video about fish and chips." And he says, "Oh, you can interview me." So I asked him a few questions, and immediately, he told me just a few of the struggles that happen with everything doubling in price recently. So many different costs just going higher and higher. When was the last time you had fish and chips?
Have it 7 nights a week.
7 nights a week? No, you don't.
I had it for about 4 or 5 days ago.
How much does it cost you these days for fish and chips?
Different price, I think you pay £8.70, £11, something depends what.
You still think it's fair though, like a fair price for the meal? Or do you think it's too much?
Well, Chippy, one time Chippy meal used to be cheap, didn't it?
Yeah.
When I went to Chippy, I wouldn't dream of paying £1.50 for gravy.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not paying it. I wouldn't dream of going to the Chippy saying, "What gravy on my train?" I'm not paying £1.50.
Yeah, fair enough, mate, yeah.
No, I won't do it on principle. In a state behind a Chippy, you £2.60 they charge.
Yeah.
You go in Iceland, you can get 4 for £6.50.
Yeah.
See the difference?
Yeah. But the costs are high, a bit like energy prices all and stuff, so it's hard. You don't want to blame them.
I went to Alkrington last Friday with a mate. Large chips, large. In Alkrington, £5.
Yeah.
Cost of living, isn't it?
Cost of living, that's it, mate.
It's no use moaning about it. If you're hungry when you're out, you've got to buy some food. We all know that, but you see though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, dear. Yeah. Sorry, I just need to get out of the rain for a second. Would you believe it's July in England? It's absolutely chucking it down. But yeah, so this video today is just going to be a bit of a history of fish and chips, an exploration of fish and chips, and just talking about the problems that industry faces. Now, I've come to Oldham, where one of the first, if not the first, fish and chip shops in England was opened. There's another one in London, and it's disputed between the two. Was it these Jewish immigrants in London who had the first shop, or was it a fella up here in Lancashire, just near Oldham? And apparently there's a plaque nearby on one of the fish and chip shops. I'm going to go try and find that plaque. So it was John Lees, a Lancashire man from an area called Mosley.
Whoa, United.
United. I have, mate. Quick question. Yeah. Best fish and chip shop in Oldham?
Truthfully, over there, Levers, fucking beautiful.
Levers, is that the one just in the market?
Oh, Water Sheddings is a better one, the plough.
The plough.
Where, you can get fish chips. What's happened to this fella? Why is he getting involved?
I heard something.
Yes, Oldham, born and bred.
How often do you
NHS Oldham is crap.
How often do you have fish and chips?
Well, probably once a month or something like
once a month?
Yeah, but it's all good.
Yeah, I'm about the same.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of looking into it because it's kind of sad seeing how many businesses shut down,
So
rising costs.
fucking, Oldham's fucked.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the true story. Oldham's on its knees, but we love it. That's where we live it, unfortunately, innit? But it's fucked. Anyway, you.
Good man.
Thanks for having us.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna get fish and chips as a recommendation.
Am I gonna be famous on this one?
You might be, mate. Yeah.
Yes, brother. Thank you very much.
See ya. Sorry, I just got distracted by them lovely fellas who were recommending me fish and chip shops to go and check out. But yeah, what I was saying was John Lees. He was the guy from the north who was credited with the first fish and chip shop. Now, it is heavily disputed between the Jewish immigrants down in London in the East End, but there had been the food here for a lot longer than that beforehand. So in Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens, published in 1838, he speaks of fried fish warehouses. So this was clearly a delicacy that people were eating. It's just got that north-south divide, that split opinion on who was it that opened the very first brick and mortar fish and chip shop. Here we go. Do you work here, mate? Is there a plaque on the wall about John Lees, the first fish and chip shop guy?
The best thing is gonna ask my boss, mate.
Alright, sound, yeah, I will. I think that might be it, you know.
Oh yeah?
Oh, that's it.
Ah, that one you mean?
Yeah. Here we go. Fish and chips, home of the first British fried chip, from which the origins of fish and chip shops and the fast food industry can be traced. Look at that.
What are you taking pictures of?
Well, I was going to get a portion from there, but they didn't seem that up for an interview, so let's head back to that other one, that first one we went to, because they were well sound, they loved chatting, so I'll get some from there. I'm back. Can I get a portion?
Will you eat it now?
I'll eat it. Yeah, I'll eat it now, yeah, please.
Thank you very much.
How much is that?
That'll be £4.90. Thank you.
Keep the change.
The change?
Honestly, keep the change. It's been so nice that you've stopped and chatted to me. I mean that honestly, it's really good. Right, here we go. Look at that. That looks absolutely mega. Now I was a bit worried at first because I thought, oh, that's quite a small portion. But then, you know what, sometimes when you're eating fish and chips, it's too filling anyway. So that's good. Plus it was, for all that, it were £4.60, I think they said. Yeah, cheaper than my chips and curry sauce the other day in Ambleside. So yeah, good on you. So when was the last time you had fish and chips?
I think it's kind of 3 weeks ago. I kind of have fish and chips once in a while because I love it.
You're from Germany?
I'm from Germany.
Do you have fish and chips in Germany?
We do.
But it different to...
It will be different. The original is from Great Britain. And I went to an event and they had the fish and chips, and the highlight was the green pea sauce.
Yeah, the mushy peas.
Exactly. The mushy peas.
That's it, yeah.
We love it.
What's the equivalent in Germany of mushy peas? Do you have anything?
No, we put kind of, the German word is a remoulade. It's a creamy sauce, a white creamy sauce. I don't know what is the English word for this. But
right,
it is,
yeah.
It's not mayonnaise, but it's a kind of similar.
Okay, yeah.
It took a long time for me to find out this mushy piece, how delicious it is.
Yeah.
It doesn't look that good for me, but in the end, the taste is hilarious.
It's amazing, isn't it? Yeah. But this was absolutely banging. Now, £4.80, there's absolutely loads. I'll be honest, I have already eaten lunch, but I can see a second one off at that price. And that brings me on to talking about fish and chips. Where did it come from? What was it for? Well, it was real working class food. And that's where the saying cheap as chips comes from. But obviously, not cheap everywhere now. When I got home, I just wanted to check that I'd got the origin of the idiom cheap as chips correct. And I think I was wrong. I had to trawl through quite a few forums where most people were just talking about this guy.
I think it's cheap as chips. I think it's well worth more than that.
But Dickinson aside, I did find one answer that kept coming up, and it's a reference to wood chips, so not the food chips as I did think. But yeah, normal wood would cost you a fortune back then, but you could use the cheap version, which was wood chips. Therefore, the idiom comes about, cheap as chips. But it really was the affordable meal for the working class. This easy to produce, quick to make, fast service meant it ideal for keeping food on the table without breaking the bank and keeping hungry mouths fed. And like the guy said before, the nice guy in the little market stall, he said, oh, I don't pay rates. He just rents that unit. And if you've watched any of my other wanderings, you'll know I'm always going on about rates, business rates, how detrimental they are to any business really that wants to operate. And when you can cut out those costs, like that place has managed to do, sure you haven't got your own physical store, brick and mortar store, but you've got your unit, you can still keep fish and chips a working class food. That was a fiver, that was less than a fiver. And Oldham, a really working class town, that place is catering for those people that can get a really good cheap meal. But I don't blame that place in the Lake District that had to charge so much, because Ambleside, probably one of the most expensive places in the north to buy property, the rent there must be insane. The rates there will be absolutely insane. You've just got to add on that cost to the product that you're supplying, which means chips cost £6. There were another fish and chip shop in Oldham, Jack Sprat's. Now this place had to close recently. It had been open since the 90s, but I did manage to find it on Street View and look at it open throughout the years. This was one of the many recent fish and chip shops that had to close, and were vocal about the reasons why: rising energy prices and rising supplier costs. So I thought, I know where there'll definitely be a fish and chip shop. Hollingworth Lake. Now this place on a summer's day is banging. The depressing thing is, it is a summer's day and it's like this. What is going on? Anyway, there's a fish and chip shop over there. Let's go in and see if we can get an interview. See if we can get a chat with them, see how they're doing. So I just got chatting to the manager and he said, come back tomorrow. I'm just busy now. So I've got an interview tomorrow with the guy who runs the fish and chip shop, which will be really interested. So we'll come back tomorrow and hopefully Hollingworth Lake will look a bit nicer. The importance of fish and chips through 2 world wars was of no small significance. It was used to not only keep the nation well fed, but also for troops fighting to keep their morale high, remind them of home. But with Russia's ongoing invasion of Ukraine, which has decimated the global food supply chain, it brings to light just how much the world has changed since the first half of the 20th century, and a simple dish like fish and chips isn't actually simple to make anymore. Right, it's the next day, and what a difference a day can make. Look at this, it's so much nicer. So I'm just about to go meet that fella who said come back tomorrow. And like I said earlier, fish and chips used to be easy to make, cheap to produce, and I'm really interested to go into a bit more detail about all of it with someone who literally runs that business. So Mr. Thomas's. I've just spoken to the guy. He says, look, I don't want to be on camera, but you can use my voice. So I said, how about this? You make me a portion of fish and chips, I'll film it, and I can put your words over the top. So we're going to do that.
For instance, a block of oil would cost 3 or 4 years ago maybe £10 a block, something like that. Now it's 23. Potatoes should be this time of year round about £7 a bag, something like that. They're currently 19 to 20 for one bag. But it's costs as well. Your costs combined, you know, your wage costs, you've got your running costs, you've got your council business rates costs with a lower customer base. You know, your profit margins are severely hit. You know, okay, people's wages are rising, but so's the cost of living. That's the way to look at it. Everyone is slightly worse off. We need a better standard of living for everybody, but people generally to feel a lot more wealthier in the pockets so that they can come out and spend again like they used to. It's all work just to pay the bills. There's nothing at the end of it, is there? And that's really where people are at the minute, and we've just got regulation left, right and centre, just battering everyone's spirit down, and that's where we are. That's a good one. Everyone's spirit's battered. Yeah. And if you want more battering, come here, I'll batter your fish.
So yesterday's fish and chips was absolutely delicious. It was really cheap, but it was a bit smaller. But this is an absolutely mammoth portion, a little bit more expensive, not too expensive, kind of dandelion and burdock. I don't know if it's because I got to see every step of the process in this being made, or if because it is just unbelievable quality, made with love from someone who cares. But that is one of the best fish and chips I've ever eaten in my life. So good, in a spot where they're meant to be eaten. Go check it out if you're in Hollingworth Lake. Mr. Thomas's fish and chip shop, unreal. God, I wonder how many portions of fish and chips I'm going to eat whilst I'm making this video. I'm all for it. So this here is a newspaper. Now to my younger watchers, you might not know what a newspaper is, but this is what people, before smartphones came around, this is what people used to sit around looking at all day long. It's got much better battery life than a smartphone. You rarely had to charge these, if at all. But the interesting thing about newspapers were, back in the day, this is what they used to wrap fish and chips in. A cost-effective way to serve the food. Your newspapers that were done reading, you could wrap up the food and serve it. Now that lasted until the 1980s when it became deemed unsafe to have the ink on the papers next to food, so then you had to use grease-proof paper. So that extra cost came in then, back in the 80s, just a little one. Now, the modern day packaging, as my man Andrew yesterday was saying. Oh, so this stuff here,
That's all recyclable products.
Okay.
It's a little bit more flimsy than the other stuff used to be, but they're still developing it.
More expensive?
A lot more expensive. These are 3 times more expensive than the last trays.
And this paper, I just bought this in the shop, cost £3. So even if it was deemed safe to eat your food from ink, it's not going to be viable anymore. Do any of my watchers remember eating fish and chips from a newspaper? It was before my time, but let me know if you did. Right, I'm in Manchester now. It's back to being terrible weather, but I'm here for a few reasons, because I want to head to a fish market, maybe have a chat with someone who works there about fish itself, where it comes from, but also I'm going to get one final portion of fish and chips, but it's the opposition to the Chippy. It's the competition, it's the modern equivalent, and it's the fish and chips served in a restaurant, the fancy fish and chips, where they dress it all up. Unfortunately, no one in the fish market knew where the fish came from. Brexit was supported by our fishermen because it promised them the return of our once great fishing industry. But like all of Brexit's false promises, we're just left worse off. Now, I'm going to do an entire video just on the fishing industry of Britain. So if you're involved in it in some way, in some capacity, get in touch. I want to hear from you. So I found myself the fanciest looking restaurant that I could that served fish and chips. And for £17.50 for a portion, I was excited to see what you get. And this is it. This is the fancy restaurant's version of fish and chips, where the mushy peas are laid delicately upon the plate, where the chips arrive in this fancy little shopping basket, this ineffective fake mini fryer. I felt like the final destination of this meal was in fact Instagram and not my belly. And I couldn't believe it, but the little basket that the chips came in had a bit of fake newspaper in there with an article and pictures. This felt more like an alternative artistic manifestation of fish and chips than the working class meal that it was meant to be. I obviously saw the whole thing off, but yeah, with the basket and the newspaper and the price, this felt a bit more like an experience, and definitely the worst portion I've had this week. So that meal then, fish and chips and a Coke, £20.25. That is not working class food. When was the last time you had fish and chips?
A couple of weeks ago,
yeah,
I would say.
Yeah, is it a bit of a treat now?
Yeah.
Yeah, why so?
To be honest, mate, it's not my meal of choice.
Is it not? What would you go for? Yeah.
Probably a burger or something like
that.
Yeah,
fair.
Pizza.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's all unhealthy, isn't it, really?
Yeah. True. What would you expect to pay for fish and chips?
God, probably. I mean, now, like 16 quid probably.
Yeah, I just paid £17.50 for some, so.
Oh, right, where did you go?
Yeah, that was in a little restaurant, actually. I was kind of comparing the sort of places.
Right. It's too expensive to eat out, to be honest, mate.
It is, isn't it?
I just went to Greg's. Well,
good man, thank you.
First time I've met a YouTuber.
Oh, no way, nice. How did we go from getting fish and chips wrapped up in a newspaper, out of necessity, out of cheapness, to fish and chips in a restaurant, coming in its own little newspaper with an article on it and pictures on it? It's almost a gentrification of the working class meal. This piece of performance art that you'll come in and pay for the privilege, reminding you of that time when we were at war and fish and chips was all that we could eat and kept the nation alive, when everyone was skint, except the world is at war and everyone is skint, but people can't afford fish and chips, especially not fish and chips coming at £17.50. But the brilliant podcaster, Blind Boy, who did a podcast on fish and chips a while ago. I re-listened in research for this video, it really helped me. But he talks about the fancy fish and chips served just like I've had, and he says it's nostalgic poverty recontextualized to mean authenticity, and I think that just hits the nail on the head with stuff like that. So when did you last have fish and chips?
Maybe about a month ago.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Do you get it locally? Yeah? Do you get it delivered? Do you pick it up?
Locally.
Yeah?
Local chipper.
What do you pay for fish and chips?
I think fish is about $3.75.
That's pretty good.
And the chips are about $1.90 or something.
Yeah, you think that's fair?
Yeah.
Yeah?
It's fair. You get a fair portion.
You get a good amount.
It's good fish.
Do you get other takeaways, or is fish and chips is the one to go to?
Curries.
Curries, yeah. I'd probably opt for curry more than fish and chips these days.
Yeah, same.
But it's just one of them, innit? That's another thing as well. Suddenly, with the massive influx of other types of cuisine, other restaurants available, fish and chips just lost its dominance. It had to compete with all the other types that you can get delivered to your door. really easily now. I think we all know, don't we, that there is a clear separation between the fish and chips that you get in the restaurants, the fancy ones, the little baskets and newspaper, to the real ones you get from a chippy that are still, hopefully, affordable. So there we go, fish and chips. I think it's safe to say that this is Britain's national dish. But for how long? At the peak in the 1920s, there was 35,000 fish and chip shops around the United Kingdom. It's estimated now that there may be less than 10,000 remaining, and it's predicted that half of that number may have to close very soon if costs don't come down. I get the feeling that this industry isn't the thing that the youth of today will be inspired to walk into. And when you look at a chart seeing just how much every product to do with fish and chips has risen these past few years, it's no wonder that sometimes you end up paying a bit more. And maybe that experimental, interactive art piece that costs you nearly 20 quid in a restaurant is for you. But what I say you should do is get down to your local chippy, show them some support. It's said that if we all ate out just twice more at fish and chip shops, a proper chippy, that industry would continue to thrive. Let's keep it our national dish. Let's keep it alive. And remember, your chippy needs you.